Thousands of years ago, humans pulled off one of the strangest feats in history. We took wolves and turned them into dogs. Wild cattle became cows. Wild boars became pigs. Wild horses became companions, workers, and transportation. Entire species were transformed to fit human civilization. But here's something most people never think about. Almost all of that happened thousands of years ago. Which raises a weird question. Have we already domesticated everything worth domesticating? Or is there an animal alive today that could become the next dog? And surprisingly, there actually is a front runner. If scientists had to place a bet on the next animal humans could successfully domesticate, the answer would probably be foxes. But to understand why, we first need to understand something important. Most animals are terrible candidates for domestication. People often confuse taming with domestication. They are not the same thing. A tiger raised by humans can become tame. It might tolerate people. It might even seem affectionate. But that doesn't make tigers domesticated. Domestication happens when an entire species changes genetically over many generations. And that's incredibly difficult. Take zebras. For centuries, people have tried to domesticate them. On paper, zebras seem perfect. They're similar in size to horses. They're strong enough to ride. They live in groups. Yet domesticated zebras basically don't exist. Why? Because zebras are aggressive, unpredictable, and extremely difficult to breed selectively. The traits that made horses useful simply aren't present in zebras. And that illustrates the problem. Most species fail the domestication test. Some are too aggressive. Some panic too easily. Some refuse to breed in captivity. Others don't have the social structures that allow humans to work with them. Historian and biologist Jared Diamond argued that only a tiny fraction of large animal species possess the right combination of traits for domestication at all. In other words, humanity probably picked most of the obvious winners a very long time ago. But maybe not all of them. Which brings us back to foxes. In 1959, a Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev launched one of the most fascinating experiments ever conducted. His goal was simple: take wild silver foxes and breed only the friendliest individuals. Nothing else mattered, not size, not appearance, not intelligence, just friendliness towards humans. Generation after generation, the tamest foxes were selected to reproduce. And what happened next shocked scientists. The foxes didn't just become friendlier, they started looking different. Their ears became floppy. Their tails curled. Their coats developed new colors and patterns. Some even began acting like dogs. They sought out human attention. They wagged their tails. They followed people around. And all of this happened in just a few decades. That's an eye blink in evolutionary terms. The experiment revealed something remarkable. Once a species starts adapting to human companionship, other changes often follow. Behavior changes, appearance changes, even biology changes. Which is exactly what happened to wolves thousands of years ago. That's why foxes are probably the strongest candidate for future domestication. We've already demonstrated that the process works. But here's the catch: just because we can domesticate foxes doesn't mean we will. Because today we face a problem our ancestors didn't. We don't really need new domesticated animals. For most of history, domestication solved practical problems. Animals provided food, transportation, protection, labor. Modern technology handles many of those jobs better than animals do. So if foxes became domesticated tomorrow, what role would they actually fill? That's harder to answer. And that leads to a much bigger idea. Maybe the next domesticated animal won't be chosen because it's useful. Maybe it'll happen because a species naturally becomes compatible with human life. We've actually seen this before, with cats. Contrary to popular belief, humans didn't really create cats the same way we created dogs. Cats mostly domesticated themselves. When early farming societies began storing grain, mice showed up. The mice attracted wild cats. The cats got easy food. Humans got free pest control. The friendliest cats benefited the most. Over time, both species adapted to each other. No one sat down and decided to invent the house cat. The relationship emerged naturally. And maybe that's exactly how future domestication will happen. Because evolution never stopped. Animals are still adapting to us right now. Urban foxes have learned to thrive in cities. Crows can recognize individual human faces. Some birds have learned to use traffic patterns to crack open nuts. Entire species are adjusting to human environments in ways our ancestors never could have imagined. And that raises an interesting possibility. Maybe somewhere on Earth, another species is already taking the first steps down the same path that wolves and cats once took. Not because humans planned it, but because living alongside humans happens to be advantageous. If that species exists, foxes are probably the best current candidate. They're intelligent, social, adaptable, and we've already seen how quickly they respond to selective breeding. But the real answer may be even more interesting than foxes. Because the history of domestication suggests something unexpected. It isn't really about humans controlling animals. It's about cooperation. The animals that succeeded weren't necessarily the strongest or the smartest. They were the ones capable of building a relationship with us. Wolves became dogs because the partnership benefited both sides. Cats stayed because life around humans was easier than life without them. And maybe the next domesticated species will emerge the same way. Not through some grand scientific project, not because we decide to create it, but because one species slowly discovers that its future is better with us than without us. So when people ask what animal will be domesticated next, the most likely answer is probably foxes. But the more fascinating possibility is that the real next domesticated animal may already be out there, quietly adapting to human life, and we simply haven't noticed it yet.